Hey, what's up, guys? I thought I'd put this video together to answer a question I had from one of my referral guys. He was asking me, he's just starting out, just getting out of CDL school, and was asking if I could help him understand how all these clocks work and how to think about them just starting out. And the short answer is you just got to start using them. I mean, once you've been out here for even a week, you're having to work the clocks pretty much all day, every day, and it's the kind of thing that you just end up getting the hang of. But that aside, I thought I'd try to put something together to really streamline the learning process and just kind of hone in on the most essential, most important clocks. And so the two clocks I'm going to talk about are the 14-hour clock and the 11-hour clock. So the 14-hour clock, I look at it as being like it's like a window, right? It's the space within which you can work in a day. And the clock starts, the window opens as soon as you go to the on-duty line, right? So typically it's going to be on-duty pre-trip load check in the morning if you're loaded. And as soon as you go on duty, that window opens, right? And as soon as that window opens, you know exactly when it's going to close, right? So if you go into work, if you log into, you go on duty on your PeopleNet or your Qualcomm or whatever you've got in your truck at 6 in the morning, you know that you're not going to be working past 8 o'clock at night, right? So you take the number you start with in the morning, you add 2 to it, and then you change the time of the day, the AM to the PM. So 14 hours, you start at 6 a.m., you're going to be stopping at 8 p.m. It's that simple, right? Whether you're on duty, whether you're off duty, whether you're driving, whether you're taking a break, regardless of what you're doing, that window is going to stop at 14 hours, all right? So inside that window, inside that space, your goal is to try to get as many of your 11-hour drive hours driven, right? So you've got your 14-hour clock, which is a window within which you can work. Your 11-hour clock is a chunk of drive time, right? You can't drive more than 11 hours in a day. So your goal is to try to get as many of those 11 hours driven inside that 14-hour window, right? So I think of the 11-hour clock as like the money clock. Like each one of those little segments of time in your 11-hour clock it's money. It's a chunk of change. And you've basically got 3 hours of flex between your 11 and your 14 to get loaded, to get unloaded, to get fueled, all that kind of stuff. And on a good day, you're able to get all of those 11 hours driven, right? So that's really, that's the most fundamental, the most fundamental, those are the most fundamental components of the clocks as far as I can see. The other thing that your PeopleNet's going to be helping you keep track of is your 30-minute break. So of those 11 hours, you can only drive 8 of them consecutively before you have to take a break, right? So when you first log on your screen, you're going to see on the screen that you have 8 hours available of drive time. That doesn't mean you only have 8 hours of driving. It means you got 8 hours before you got to take a 30-minute break. So, those are the 2, maybe 3 kind of layers. 14-hour window, let's say you start driving it, or you start your load check in the morning, you go on duty at 7:22, right, in the morning. You're going to be done at 9:22 that night. And then the flip side of that on the 14-hour clock is your 10-hour break, right? To refresh your 14-hour window, your 14-hour clock, you got to get a 10-hour break of consecutive off-duty or off-duty sleeper berth time. So again, when you're checking out at night, let's say you stop driving at 8:30 at night, you know that you can start driving again at 6:30 the next morning, right? You just subtract 2 from that number and switch in this case, the PM to the AM. So it's super simple, and these are the tricks, like I say, once you've been driving for even a week or 2, these are the kinds of things that just become second nature. But I remember when I was going through CDL school, just being kind of overwhelmed by all the different clocks that you had to kind of, try to figure out. So, I guess the last little shortcut, again, it's, really basic and really simple, but when you're thinking about your 34-hour reset, so we're not talking about the weekly clock. You know, you can look all that kind of stuff up. Basically, if you're driving flatbed for Maverick, you're gonna be getting a reset every weekend. I've talked to a couple of guys who do glass, who recap and that kind of thing, but for the most part, you're going to be getting a reset every weekend. So the shorthand to think about getting your reset, your 34-hour break is basically a 24-hour period plus a 10-hour break. All right, you can think about the 10-hour break plus a 24-hour period. So let's say you get into the house Friday at 5 p.m. Right, you do the 10-hour jump just like you would if you were driving again the next day. So you know that you'd be able to drive again the next morning at 3 a.m. and then you add a day to that, right? So if you get in at Friday at 5, you know that by that Sunday morning at 3 a.m. you'd be able to drive again. So this is probably going to be something that's more important to be thinking about when you pull in on a Saturday, right? So if you pull in, let's say you pull in on Saturday at noon, and you're trying to think about when you can start running again, right? You pull in loaded and you got to drop on Monday morning, and you think, okay, what time Sunday can I start rolling again? So if you pull in on Saturday at noon, you know that you can start driving again Sunday night at 10 p.m., right? So you got 24-hour period from noon on Saturday to noon on Sunday, plus the 10-hour, break in addition to that. So, the shorthand again is just you take the 12 minus 2, which is 10 o'clock a.m., and then you flip the a.m. to the p.m., and then you add a day to that, right? So 12 noon on Saturday to 10 o'clock p.m. on Sunday is your window. So then you can decide, is that too late to leave out on Sunday? Should I just leave out Monday morning, right? If you get in Saturday at 9, you can start driving Sunday at 7 p.m. Right, those are the kind of calculations you're going to have to do, as you're trying to plan ahead for when you're going to be starting, when you're going to be leaving the house, and all that kind of stuff. That's the long and the short of it. Mostly the short of it. All the other stuff you pick up as you go along, and you'll just be able to build on top of this as you go. But really, in terms of day in and day out use of the clock, that's the way I understand it, and hope it helps you get started, as you're getting out of CDL school and getting behind the wheel of the truck. So again, hope this helps, and we'll catch you next time.